Welcome, 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 viewers and listeners, for another episode of Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Dave Peltz. We have our other most brilliant mind joining us, Dr. Joe Hamlett. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well, and thanks for the introduction. I was not expecting that.
Well, it's well deserved. So today's topic is going to be on purpose. I just realized that there's a pun in there. It's on
Yeah, I was
purpose.
gonna say on
It's on
purpose.
purpose.
Okay.
So it's on purpose, on purpose. So we're going to be discussing purpose or purposefulness, I guess you could say. So what I mean by that is, or what we mean by that is, what is your purpose? Has your purpose changed? What does your purpose look like? What drives you toward your purpose? And what actions and thoughts and processes are you using to help facilitate your purpose? So with that, as is our custom, one of us introduces and the other one gets the honor of starting the topic off. Dr. Joe, what are your thoughts on purpose?
On purpose. I didn't
Purposely on
do it
purpose.
on purpose. So that's a very good topic, Dave. It just I go back and think of a kid, being a kid, and you think about your purpose back then. And more, it was probably more like your dream of what you thought you were gonna do. But which we all know for most of us, it changed over the years multiple times. Um, but for me, my purpose, I've slowly discovered or uncovered parts of it. And my purpose is to help others. I know that. I know that for a fact now. But for a lot of years, uh, that wasn't my purpose. And it took me a lot of years to discover what my purpose was, because going into this again, like I say, you go into it with these dreams of what you're going to think you're going to be doing. And for me, it was not helping people. Not that that was the farthest from my list, because that's what I grew up
My
doing, but
purpose is not helping people.
right. So I didn't mean to come off that way. That I did not want that to be my purpose, but it just was not in my sights. It was not the thing that I sat down and wrote on my wrote when they said, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I never said, "Hey, I'm going to help people." So that's what I mean by that. It was more that dream of being a kid and dreaming of doing different things, and so. And like I say, it wasn't until later in life that I realized my purpose was helping people. That's where I get the most joy, and feel like that I'm doing something that makes a difference. And so, like Dave said, our purpose changes over the years. And whether we start to go toward that purpose or start to apply those things that we have that lend to your purpose, that's the challenge. Because like I said, over the years, it took me a long time before I said that's my purpose. And actually, I won't say, it's probably been pretty recent that I finally said that's my purpose. I'm 50 something years old, and I didn't even say at 50 that this is my purpose. Like I said, it's probably been within the last 5 years when I truly accepted that this is my purpose. And all those signs were there along the way, as far as, always reaching back, and anything that I did, I always reached back to help others around me, pull them alongside of me. People always ask me in interviews, what's your greatest achievement? And, I've reached some huge milestones in my life and my career, and it was never that I became a doctor or that I became a senior leader in the military or I did all these things. It was, I always said, and I still will always say, it's those people that I helped around me, to help them along my journey as well, to help bring them along with me, not to sit up at this peak and say, hey, look at me, I've achieved all these things, but rather it was for me to try and help those other people behind me or come along with me. So even though all those signs were there, and like I say, even early in my 30s, that was what I did. I helped people, but like I said, it wasn't until recently that I really understood that that's my purpose. So I know I've kind of been long-winded, but my journey to my purpose now, even though all these signs were here, still was not identifiable to me until I really took a look at what am I supposed to be doing? What am I passionate about? What gets me going? What will I do? What would I do even if I wasn't getting paid for, which that's the case today.
Mhm.
Today, me and Dave are on this podcast sharing our experiences, sharing our knowledge with other people, and we're not getting paid for this. We don't have any endorsement deals. We don't have any sponsors or anything like that. We take time out of our day to do this weekly, to again, hopefully to assist you in your journey. So that's why I know this is my purpose, because we look forward to doing this every week and producing this show. So like I say, for you, you may be in a similar boat, not understanding what your purpose is. And like I said, I ran away from my purpose, even though I was still doing it. I still was not sure that that's what I was supposed to be doing until recently. So what are you out there? What are you running from, or what are you not really taking a look at and thinking, I enjoy
Or
doing
running
this,
towards. What are you
or
running towards?
yeah, well, what is that thing in front of you that you're saying, man, I would do this even if I didn't get paid? What is that thing that you're so passionate about, that you're so excited about, that you can't wait to tell people, or you can't shut up about it? What is that thing for you? you know and so that's, like I said, I've been long-winded with this because, again, knowing your purpose is pretty powerful. You know the direction you're supposed to be going, and it helps you start to format what your future looks like. And I'll still say it, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I know it's going to have something to do with helping people. So like I say, I've discovered my purpose, and we'll see if Dave can kind of align with that as well. But I'll go ahead and hand it off to Dave.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I was thinking about what my purpose is and has been in the past and how it's changed. For instance, when I was in high school, my purpose, I thought at that time, was to become an art teacher.
Mm.
I There's a lot of irony and, I guess, bizarreness in that, but that's what I thought my purpose was in high school. I was good at art, and I had a couple opportunities to do a little teaching other students and peers, a little bit about how to do art. And to facilitate that, I joined the military and went into military police, because those two are same, right?
Yeah,
Art
exactly.
teacher and military police, same.
Right.
Yeah, you couldn't be more opposite, I think.
Right.
And
Right.
so as I reflect and think about my career, that's what I'm looking at in my mind right here. Is when I got out of the military, the third time, that kind of was a pivoting point for me in my career. And for a while, many years, I thought my purpose was to go in law enforcement and on the civilian side
Hmm.
of things, and that didn't really pan out the way I thought. And so for a while, I thought it was, well, maybe it's the business world. That's what my education's in, and that's what I
Right.
was passionate about at that time, was learning as much as I could about business and becoming a manager again and a supervisor again, like I was for many years in the military. And after after I completed my doctorate, and things got fuzzy for a while, and I didn't
Right.
know what my purpose was. I felt a little lost in many ways. And then I started thinking, well, maybe it's teaching. So I got into teaching,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, yeah, I really do love teaching. And I started thinking, why do I love teaching so much? I'm helping others learn. And to your point, being 50 something, I like that descriptor because that doesn't put us in too small of a box. It was just within the last probably 3 to 5 years, and even in the last several months, there's still parts that I'm still trying to figure out
Oh,
about. What does
absolutely.
that helping others look like? What does that
Right.
teaching others look like? Is it a formal setting, or is it an informal setting? Very much akin to, or exactly what we're doing with our podcast. What gets us up and gets us happy and excited? and we don't necessarily have to get necessarily that's a caveat. We don't necessarily have to do it for free. I mean,
Right, right,
but
right.
I mean, we are definitely open to many sponsorships, but it's not something that we're like driving, like we're going to do this podcast so we can get paid. And it's like,
Right,
no, we're
right,
doing it because we're passionate about it. It's what drives us. It's what our purpose is, or part of our purpose is, and that's really where I'm at, in many ways. And I still am not quite sure what I want to do when I grow up, and I'm not even sure that I'll ever really grow up by
right,
definition.
right.
You know, physically I might, but mentally I'm still probably going to be that goofball kid, that's wanting to help people his whole life, or that goofball adult. So not that I'm a total goofball sometimes, but we have our moments of clarity
Right.
or cloudiness depending on your perspective. So yeah, purpose is a big driver. And it's okay to be lost. It's just you have to have that moment of self-actualization through reflection that, hey, you might be lost, and you are lost. And I can't speak for Joe, and I won't, but I know for me, I've been lost a few times in my life, and not sure what my next job or what my next thing is to do. Is it going to be to get back into doing art or drawing, or is it to be going back into higher education in a formal setting? What does that look like? Is it to really be overly or hyper engaged with our businesses and our consulting businesses, or is it working for someone else? I'm not exactly sure in many ways. I do know what drives me and what my purpose is, and that is to help others and to share with others, so that our viewers and listeners, as Joe and I have mentioned several times, I know he's thinking exactly what I'm thinking, taking that long
Right,
scenic route
right.
through the alpine forests and the deserts and the lowlands, and the ship
Yeah.
across the
That's
Pacific Ocean on a
probably
on a
probably not the Alpine that I'm remembering it. It's more the other stuff. It's not the let's take a stop here and look at that peak. No, it's not that for me. It's hold your nose and let's try and
yeah,
get through this.
yeah,
More is what I've seen. But Dave, you said something very important that oftentimes people assume or they just think that I've always had it together.
yeah,
You mentioned the part about being lost and not sure where to turn. We still have those moments. A lot of people think they see, you're a doctor, you've done this, you've done those things, and we've talked about this before. In most cases, all of us have gone through something or are still going through things, but
mhm,
it's how you respond to those things. It's what kind of smooths out those edges that people don't see.
right,
But the reality is, like I said, it took me until kind of like Dave's time frame, 3 to 5 years, to figure out that my purpose is to help others, is to be, and I like this term better, is to educate in some form or fashion.
yeah,
Like you said, Dave, whether it's formal training, whether it's, this podcast, whatever it is to educate and on a multitude of things, our experiences, our education side, just all those things. So that's why I like the term now, educator. Even on
yeah,
my LinkedIn profile, I think I put educator now, just because I know some form of fashion, whether it's technical training, leadership training, helping people with personal growth and development, it's still educating them. And so that's what I like about that term. But again, back to that, statement you made about being lost and being, not sure. That is acceptable. Again, people think that successful person that they see across the way, they had it all figured out. They had their blueprint and they followed it to the letter, and everything worked out exactly the way they planned it. No, it probably didn't. They
mhm,
probably had some obstacles and barriers that they had to overcome themselves, but we just don't see that side of it. So I just want to again reiterate the fact that it's okay to not know and to not always be in control, because then that also shows that you're vulnerable, that you're a human.
yeah,
But this part of that is accepting that and asking for help. I think that's one of the determining factors that will help you overcome those things. It's knowing when you need help, knowing when
Yeah.
you need assistance.
Mhm.
And that's, I think that for me, that's still one of my weak points,
Mhm.
still trying to do it all myself, and me and Dave, that's kind of why we're here today on this podcast, because me and him have had a lot of conversations over the years, and it's been, he'll hit a low point, I'll hit a low point, we'll reach out to each other and say, hey man, this is what's going on. And by the end of the conversation, we're smiling, laughing, or looking at it differently. So that's very important. That's a very important piece of that, because like Dave said, he still doesn't know what he wants to do when he grows up either. And again, that's still okay. But we do have a direction, and that direction, or our purpose, is to help others. So I
Yeah.
just want to piggyback on that
No, that
importance of not knowing, or still being confused, or I think that's very
unsure.
important.
And yeah, and you've said several great things, Joe. I believe, kind of that lost feeling, or not even necessarily lost, but that being unsure about what one's purpose is,
Right.
affects people differently. It affects veterans differently than it does non-veterans, just
Right.
because of the environment. And I'm only saying that, I'm not saying that those are the only environments. I'm bringing that up because that's part of our background, and a lot of veterans struggle with that. And there are people that don't struggle. Some people are born and they know what their purpose is. They're going to be a
Right.
football player, or a rock star, an entertainer, or a professor, and that's what they do. But there are others that do change course throughout their life and their career. There are people that have become pro athletes that are now professors, or
Right.
that
Right.
were musicians that are now working a 9 to 5 job. And it's just people's perspectives on purpose, on what their purpose is, changes over time.
Hmm.
And I can't help but think about growing up and listening to rock and roll music, and how some of those people that were engaged in rock and roll, maybe they were a one-hit wonder. And and I can still hear some of those songs in my head right now, and it's like, but that's not what they do. That's not who they are now, because
Right.
they found a different purpose that was more suitable for them. Something happened. There was a catalyst, a tipping point that
Right.
made them change direction. And it can be 180 degrees completely opposite, and that's okay. And it's okay, to Joe's point, and like we've iterated, to not know. And that begs the question, well, how do I find my purpose if I don't know what my purpose is? And I'm going to be very direct and blunt to that. And the simple answer is, I don't know.
Right.
That's something that we each have to figure out on our own journeys, our own paths, based upon our own personal experiences and professional experiences, the highs, the lows, the successes, the challenges, the failures, what we've learned, what we've unlearned, how we've gained new perspectives and new insights. All that's going to contribute to either identifying, or at least narrowing down what your purpose
Right.
might be.
Right.
you know
Yeah.
and and that all revolves around what our previous podcast was on, and that's reflective summary. And what that means, was what we discussed there, was how these different tools that we provided integrate, and critical self-reflection is a very big piece of that. That's one of those threads that just weaves through almost every tool and piece of fabric that we've discussed over
Right.
over the many months that we've been doing this, and the time that we've been doing this. And so for me, purpose it's a very dynamic thing, if you will.
Right.
Sometimes that the dynamic uh, of that purpose is not wavering very much. It's almost a straight and steady line. But other times it can be all over the place. It can look like you took a ball of yarn and just strung it out like a cat and just put it all together, and now you're just playing with this ball of yarn trying to figure out
Right.
what to do
Right.
next with it, and that's okay. um, but it's helpful to at least understand or have an idea of what your purpose is. And if you don't, then that's, to Joe's point, that's where you reach out to friends or mentors or coaches and colleagues, and spouses and significant others, maybe your mom or your dad or brother or sister or cousin, and just say, hey, let's talk. Let's figure out what I want to do next in life. It doesn't have to be the final thing that you do. It's just the next thing that you do in this journey that we're on.
And the point that you just made about reaching out to friends, family, colleagues, significant others, things like that. So a friend of mine that I've known for over 20 years, actually over 30 years now. Kind of sorry to say that, but I'm kind of, giving you my age. But
31.
yeah, exactly. So I was one when I met him. So, we've been buddies ever since. But I guess the thing that I wanted to just again, completely help people do, if they're still trying to figure out what their purpose is. And he made this very simple comment, ask those around you what you get most excited about when you're talking, when they see your eyes lighten up, what are you talking about, or what are you trying to describe, or what is it that you're, that's the thing that he said that probably is really closely aligned to your purpose. So, I mean, that's just one way of, without you trying to figure it out yourself, but ask those closest to you, and ask them what you get excited about, what you won't shut up about, those types of things. And he's right. That's what I started doing, just really thinking about, when I'm talking to people, when do I get most excited, and when, when is it that I'm walk away feeling like I'm on top of the world? And that's when it is. It's when I'm know that I've just helped somebody, that I've just, assisted them again, to help them maybe not take that long scenic route, but let them see the peaks, be able to take that pause at the rest area and look at the mountain tops and things like that, versus going through the, bottom level of that journey. But so that was one
and
way that
sometimes you
helped
have to
me.
get to the bottom to understand
Absolutely,
what the
to
top
see,
really looks
right,
like. Maybe it's not
absolutely,
Mount Everest, maybe it's the Empire State Building,
right,
Yeah. And to Joe's point, he mentioned it earlier, I know one of the high points of my week is this podcast,
right,
and
right,
I can't tell you how many times. I suppose I could if I really sat down and thought about it, but I don't know that there would be much value in that. But I can't tell you how many times that Joe and I have, gotten done with, finished up the podcast for the week, and then we talk for another 2 hours offline, and
right,
about what we just did,
right,
because we're that passionate about it. We know that this is a huge part of our purpose, and we get giddy and happy and laugh and
right.
joke, and no matter how low or off or weird our day is being, or our week has been, when Joe and I get together, we start talking about what we're going to talk about this week, and talk about it with everyone, and on the podcast and our viewers and listeners. And then afterwards, it's like, it's one of the best feelings in the world that we have. And, and that keeps us in a very positive place until the next time we come around, and the
Right,
next week.
right,
And it's a good feeling. And, this may not be our sole purpose, but it's a big
right.
piece of our purpose. And we get a lot of joy out of it. We love to laugh and joke with each other. And then we love those, it's going to sound corny, those tender moments, if you will, where we reach out. It's like, two brothers just talking about stuff, or hashing through this, figuring it out. What are we going to talk about this week? And sometimes we just scratch our heads like, oh, it's like, how can we not know what we're going to talk about this week?
Right, right, right. No, that I think that's the biggest part of it. Is it's very difficult to do it by yourself.
Yeah,
It really is.
absolutely.
Like I said, that's for me. That's been one of the hardest parts. Is for a long time, I felt like I had to be, the strongest person in my family, on my
Yeah,
teams, and so for a long time I would not share those things, or I would not, you know, put that burden on anybody
right.
else. But like I say, me and David had a lot of hours of, therapy amongst each other, to help each other get through certain things.
Big
So
air
it's
quotes around that.
so it's that's a huge part of it, to have that sounding board, or somebody that you respect, or you can rely on or trust, that's going to give it to you straight, and it's going to help you realize your purpose. Like I said, it's taken a long time for me to realize my purpose, and so I could only imagine other people having similar situations or not really understanding it either.
Yeah. Or
But
even
that
questioning their purpose, is
right,
this
right,
really
or,
where I'm supposed to be at this moment? And maybe it
right,
is, and maybe
right,
it's not,
right. But that's so this we know this is a difficult task for a lot of people. Like I said, me and Dave are perfect examples of it. We didn't realize our purpose until much later in life, and so he mentioned, some people come right out from the gate and they know their purpose, and so that's the struggle that our purpose may have started. And I very similar to Dave. I taught because I thought that was my purpose. Corporate America because I thought that was my purpose. The military because I thought that was my purpose. But it all still revolved around that one common thing, and that was the education piece,
Educating.
educating people. From like I say, I was the oldest grandchild, the oldest son, so I was always taking care of people and things like that. So by default, that was probably my purpose. But like I say, in a lot of cases, I tried to run. I didn't want to be the most responsible. I didn't want to be the oldest, always having to be responsible. So, early on, I did. I was like, no, I don't want this anymore. But then I reverted back to that when I
Yeah.
got married, had kids, and then that was my responsibility again. So I looked at it differently because it was upon me all the time.
Yeah.
My purpose was to take care of others. And so now I see it more clearly, because I'm looking at it through a different lens. We kind of touched on that. Now things have changed. And so my vision is different now from where it
Yeah.
was when, like I say, I had to be, um, you know, take care of people. I had to do those things. And now that is switched to, I want to, I prefer
Yeah.
to. And so, again, I've been doing it all my life, but it wasn't until I really took a look at, and other people helped me identify that, that is my purpose,
Mhm.
educating others. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we understand that it may take a while to get you there, or like Dave even said, you may not even be thinking about it right now. But if you ever get to that point where you're really thinking about why are you here, what should you be doing, that's when you start having that serious conversation with yourself, with others, to figure out
Yeah.
what that purpose is. And again, me and Dave are both in our 50s, so we didn't find our purpose as spring chickens, or somebody very relatively
Were
young.
we
So
chickens
it's
or
okay.
roosters?
So there goes Dave again with something that's not even relevant, but I'll let him know. But yeah, again, we laugh and joke now about our purpose, because we know our purpose, and that's the difference. 5 or 6 years ago, I was driven towards something totally different.
Yeah.
And now, realizing my purpose is to help people. And like Dave said, we don't know if it's going to be, along this line, continue along this line. We would like to get paid. So that is, but that's not our focus. That's
Yeah.
not our driver. Cause like you said, we enjoy doing this weekly, and we'll continue to do this as long as we can. So that's the difference, though, that now our focus, even though I've been doing it all my life, my focus is educating others. So it,
Yeah.
it is taking on a totally different meaning for me, as far as, you know, taking care of people and
Yeah.
educating people.
Yeah. Exactly. Any final thoughts before we wrap up, Joe?
Now, I think I kind of rambled on a little bit, but again, it's okay to be unsure,
Yeah.
and not to have all the answers. But we just really encourage you to, when you get to that point, don't try to do it alone. Reach out to those people close to you, because they will help you more than you realize. You don't have that. That's the biggest thing that I've had to learn over the years, that a lot of people in your corner. Just reach out. So again, if you don't know your purpose yet, that's okay. We just hope that you'll find it soon enough that you can make a difference in your life and in other people's lives.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's about all I got, Dave.
Yeah. That's great, Joe. And my kind of closing thoughts are, I know my purpose kind of changed when I separated from the military the last time. And, there is that period of uncertainty. Well, what do I do now? Because you're used to having a certain routine or a certain level of
Right.
responsibility or certain tasks that you need to accomplish and want to accomplish. And when that's no longer part of your life, whether it's, voluntary or involuntary, you have to do some self-reflection. And that's where your support network comes in to, as we've mentioned. And, it doesn't mean that, life is over as you know it. It just means there's a change. For some reason, a change has been brought about in your life. And, you just need to embrace it, and then just reassess and figure out what that looks like. And it may take some time. It may take days, weeks, hours, months. And that's where your support network comes in. And just, focus on the things that you enjoy until you do figure out what that purpose is, and it becomes more clear. I'm not going to say it's necessarily going to be crystal clear, but it's going to become
Right.
clearer over time. So with that, we want to thank you, our viewers and listeners, for attending and being here for us in another episode of Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. And until next time, keep on being your not so ordinary you.